Hello YouTube, today I'm going to be showing you an Abyss guide for range. It's similar to using burst or barrage spells when training magic in the Abyss. It used to be a lot less popular than bursting because Chinchambas did not work with abilities before. So Jagex updated it last year so it worked with abilities. Other than completing the Abyss mini-quests, you need at least 45 range to use red Chinchambas, but otherwise grey ones only at level 35. However, I don't suggest you chin at the Abyss at low levels either. Because you're required to enter the wilderness from Edgeville Bank first, before you get to the Abyss, it can be very dangerous if there are PKers waiting outside. I understand it's only level 5 wilderness, but you still gotta be aware. I've seen a lot of people doing Abyss runecrafting, and even die with a Nox bow. Of course, the last thing you want to do is die with like, I don't know, 10,000 Chinchompas. Yeah, I've seen people bring a lot of Chinchompas, trust me. So anyways, once you enter the wilderness, immediately hit Anticipation, so your immune is stuns. This should pretty much give you enough time to get to the Zamrock Mage. Unless you're confident that nobody is near the Zamrock Mage, then hit Surge, then immediately teleport him. However, in case you're not aware, it is no longer possible to bypass the teleport block, using the Zamrock Mage teleport. If this happens, then immediately run back and surge out of the wilderness, then hop worlds. Freedom is also a backup ability in case you mistimed your Anticipation. Now that you're in the Abyss, there are two popular spots to train inside the Abyss. Both of them are located in the south section. One is west and the other is east. I'm currently using the west spot. I don't know the differences between them, but I recommend the west spot for chinning. Keep in mind that this method is extremely popular, and finding a world may take a lot of hops. There's also a safe spot near the southwest corner of this map, if you need a hop. I'll leave an image in the description for the best spot to train in the Abyss. So before I get into gear setup, I want to warn you guys about the Abyss lure scam. It's a very common scam, and I know oftentimes people talk about it or try to warn others, or maybe even fall for it themselves. I understand that some of you may know about this already, but I'm going to explain it just in case it happens to you. Basically what happens is, you're training in the Abyss, right? Then all of a sudden, someone comes up to you and offers to buy your spot because he or she cannot find a world after hopping many times. So assuming you do accept his or her offer, now you must trade them. However, the Abyss creatures are constantly attacking you, so it's impossible to trade. So the only way you could have traded was by entering the inner ring of the Abyss. Okay, so you entered the inner ring of the Abyss, and you assume they probably would have too, right? Or not, maybe sometimes. But that's not the point of whether they enter or not. Now you are forced to teleport out of the Abyss if you want to re-enter. Unfortunately, there's no option to exit the inner ring of the Abyss back to the outer ring without entering the wilderness again. So now what ends up happening is, you have to go back to Edgeville, then re-enter your spot through the wilderness this time. Now this is where the PKing occurs. People who are luring will now wait near the Zamrock Mage, and as soon as you're close to the Zamrock Mage, they'll start piling on top of you and kill you in no time, while you're completely skulled with most likely no prayer to even protect item. Well, the best way to avoid this scam is just say no if someone offers to buy your spot. But what if you accepted the offer and went to the inner ring of the Abyss, or you need a restock or something? If you know for sure someone else is waiting outside for you, then I suggest you turn your online status off, and then temporarily leave your clan chat, or any chat that someone knows you're in, then hop to another world and re-enter. Make sure you restore some prayer to protect item if you're already skulled inside. For gear setup, Armadillo would be the best armor for this, because it's the best non-degradable armor. I've heard people suggesting Superior Void. While it does offer you like a 5 to 7% damage increase, it actually offers less damage than the strength of the power armor. I'm wearing Amulet of Zealots, although if you're more into AFKing, then you can use a Blood Amulet instead. In your main hand slot, you'll be using red Chinchompas. Be sure to bring a lot, as even if you're on Revolution, you'll still end up using a lot per hour. I'm not sure if gray Chinchompas are effective here, but they're cheaper than reds. You don't really need a good offhand range weapon, but I suggest you use the strongest one you have, which is Ascension, but since I'm in the wilderness, I decided to use a few Death Lotus darts instead. The auras I suggest are Vampirism or Penance, but it's not really necessary anyways. The rest of my equipment is optional or self-explanatory. For inventory setup, I brought overloads and super prayer renewals. Also, bring a few prayer potions, but you don't really need many here. Ring of Vigor is also optional too. Enhanced Excalibur is great for extra healing. If you don't have access to Soul Split, then just bring extra food. There's not much of a strategy specifically needed here. This method used to be a lot more OP, back when mage or melee training dummies were allowed. This was because the dummies lasted for 30 minutes, and you were constantly deflecting the Chinchompas off the dummies. I was even able to go through 2 hours without consuming a single Chinchampa. Pretty much if you kept hitting the middle target with abilities, it optimizes area of effect. As of an update around 9 months ago, Jagex made it so that you cannot use the wrong combat style on the wrong dummies. I'm not sure how much better it would be if you used range dummies here, because I don't have a lot of them anyways. The prayer I'm using here is Leech Range Strength. Soul Split is optional, but only use it to heal back some HP. Enhanced Excalibur should be more than enough to heal it back. For abilities, I use Revolution. For anyone who's wondering, Corruption Shot is from raids, or you can simply buy it off GE. It's fairly cheap and it's well worth it, especially if you're into high level PVM. It's arguably the best DPS basic ability in the game. So the following order of the abilities is Corruption Shot, Needle Strike, Sacrifice, Binding Shot, Piercing Shot, and Fragmentation Shot. I didn't include Ricochet or Tuska's Wrath, as they do not work with Chinchampas. You don't really need any thresholds or ultimates, so just AFK most of it out, and you'll be fine. I like to use Death's Witness once in a while though. Oh, and don't forget that every 10 minutes, you'll start to notice monsters stop being aggressive, right? Just surge north or east, depending on which direction you last returned. There aren't any noteworthy drops here, but I suggest you bring a Charming Imp to collect the charms. They're really amazing for green charms. The only XP boost I have active is Clan Avatar, as there's no better familiar to use here. So with all that being said, would I recommend this method to anybody? In my opinion, not really. There are places that offer more range XP per hour than Chinning the Abyss, such as Slayer creatures. Not to mention Chinchamas are fairly expensive, and fighting for a world, especially during peak hours, isn't something you want. However, if you don't like Slayer, or you simply can't be bothered not to AFK, then this is your best bet. Also, this method cannot be used to train Invention, because you can't augment Chinchamas. Although you can still gain offhand weapon and armor XP from this, but it's really slow. So overall, in 1 hour, I got around 660k range XP without the clan avatar boost, and consumed 773 Chinchampas. Before the dummies were patched, this method used to be at least 750k XP per hour. I've even reached as high as 800k on more populated worlds, as they spawn a lot faster. You notice that I was constantly switching targets, and my area of effect is not centered properly, so it definitely made it less efficient. So yeah, thanks for watching and I hope it helps. If I missed anything, feel free to ask.